Accessing David Icke, former television broadcaster, public speaker, author of 10 books, researcher and truth seeker. An 11-year quest to unveil the hidden history of mankind. Mission objective, to share information for human evolution.
Out of this black hole of official suppression has come an increasing focus by open-minded researchers on the endless ancient texts, accounts, legends all over the world of extraterrestrial gods who came from the sky and infused advanced knowledge into human society, and how those gods interbred with humanity, creating hybrid bloodlines. Conventional history even says that Sumer was the cradle, or one of them, of modern civilization. And these texts tell in astonishing detail of how an extraterrestrial race of gods, which they call the Anunnaki, which in Sumerian means those who from heaven to earth came, arrived on the earth, ruled ancient society, and interbred with humanity. And fascinatingly, the texts describe how these hybrid people, created by the interbreeding, were put into the positions of ancient ruling royal power. Now this is the true origin of the so-called divine right of kings, the divine right to rule by your bloodline.
Okay, we're here today with controversial author David Icke. Thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure.
David. David, you had a massive spiritual transformation that's changed your life in incredible ways back around 1986. Would you please share with us your experiences at that time?
Well, it was a transformation experience, that's for sure, but all through my life I rejected religion, and also rejected the idea that this world is all there is, and we're just a cosmic accident, the general scientific view. But I'd never really looked for the alternative. I was getting on with my life in television and all that stuff, like you do. But towards the end of the 80s, I started to have some strange experiences. And it culminated really in 1990, when I had this feeling there was this presence around me. When I was in a room, like a hotel room working for the BBC on my own, it was like someone else was there. And one day, not long after this, while this was going on, I was with my son, who's now a teenager, in days, kind of 18, and we were playing soccer on the seafront at Ryde in the Isle of Wight, where I lived. And when we finished, we were going to have some lunch at one of these Greasy Joe cafes on the railway station, right on the seafront. And when I got there, the railway worker came up to me and wanted to talk to me about soccer, So we were chatting away, and when we'd finished, I realized my boy Gareth was not around, and I knew where he'd be. He was in the newsagent, the news shop on the station, reading the books. So I walked in, and there he was. And I said to him, because the Greasy Joe cafe was full, "Come on, Gareth, we'll go up in the town and get something to eat." And as I turned, it was like two magnets were holding my feet to the ground. At this time, I'm just a television presenter. I'm presenting news and sport and stuff. And this was the start of the change. And I went to turn, and my feet wouldn't move. And I don't hear voices or anything like that. I just follow my intuition, my instincts, which have become stronger and stronger as the years have unfolded. But at that time, in this awakening, if you like, conscious awakening, I heard three voices, very clear, and this was the first. It said, "Go and see the books on the far side." And I'm thinking, who said that? So I went over there, just out of intrigue, like interest, what is going on here? So I walked across to look at the books, and this bookshop in that area sells things like, we call them Mills and Boon. They are novels about perfectly formed English roses who have wonderful relationships with perfectly formed uniformed soldiers, really riveting stuff. So I'm thinking, what am I going over here for? But when I got there, in among that lot was this book with a lady's face on the front. And I was kind of drawn to it. So I picked it up and turned it over, and I saw the word psychic on the back. This is a book by a healer, a spiritual healer, who is a psychic. Well, we're all psychic, but a conscious psychic. And so I thought, I wonder if she would pick up what this thing is I'm feeling around me. So you feel a bit of a Burke at that time, don't you? So I didn't say I've got this presence around me or anything like that. I said I had arthritis, genuinely true. And I wasn't going to take drugs for it. So I wrote to her to see if she could give me some spiritual healing, right? That was my kind of in. But what I thought was, I want to see if she picks this up. So I went to see her. And first 2 visits were like hands-on healing, and we chatted about other dimensions and stuff like that. I'm getting really interested in this because it makes total sense. And then on the 3rd visit, I'm lying there, minding my own business, and she's doing this healing, right? And suddenly I felt like a spider's web on my face. Now this really started to make me take interest, because I'd read in a book that when she said other dimensions, other spirits, as she put it, want to connect with you, you sometimes feel a spider's web-like feeling on your face. Well, funnily enough, I've never felt it since, just on that one occasion. So I'm like, oh my goodness me, it's the spider's web. And I tell you, I never said a word to her, because I'm just thinking, I'm going to keep quiet about this for a minute. About 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, she kind of leapt back with her head, and she said, oh my God, I've got to close my eyes for this one, which is 1990, March 1990. And now, my ticker's going in it. I'm thinking, what's going on here, you know? And she said, I'm seeing a figure, she said, and this figure's asking me to tell you things. So I'm just going to pass on what I'm being told. And it said that I had been led there not to be healed, but to be contacted. That they knew they wanted me to, I knew I wanted them to contact me, but the time wasn't right until now. Now, that was interesting, because one thing I hadn't told her is that one time in a hotel room with this presence around me, which is getting me seriously pissed, I actually sat there and said, for goodness sake, if you're there, contact me, because you're driving me up the wall. And she referred to that without any idea that it had happened. And then she said that she was being told that I was going to go out on a world stage, be world famous. I was going to travel the world, and I was going to reveal knowledge that had been suppressed. A gigantic shadow had to be lifted from the planet, and the time had come to do it. That I would write 5 books in 3 years, which on this subject, which sounded ludicrous at the time. Getting 5 books published in 3 years is difficult enough. On a subject I knew nothing about at the time, it happened to the month. That there was going to be tremendous changes in the world. There was going to be a massive consciousness shift in which humanity would go onto a much higher level of understanding of who it was and what the world was really about. That there would be great earthquakes and earth changes, that the seas would rise, and that there would be a massive, massive transformation. And that I was going to go out world stage and talk about this. And interesting, given what started to unfold, is that I would face enormous opposition. But they, whoever they were, will always be there to protect me, and the opposition would never prevail. And so it went on. And a stream of things. One line that always stuck in my mind was, one man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that will change the world. So, from that point, I started writing a book about my experiences. It was called Truth Vibrations. And of course, when it came out, I got massive ridicule in Britain, because I was well known as a television presenter. I was on the front of all the tabloid newspapers. You know, Icke's gone mad. I actually couldn't walk down any street in Britain for 2 years without being laughed at by most of the people in the street. It was extraordinary. There was one occasion I got so fed up with it, because it wears you down after a while. What it did then, I'm a much different character now. And I got in my car to drive out of this particular city to get away from it all. And I stopped at the traffic lights, and I looked across, and the family in the next car were laughing at me. I would go home, I'd put the television on, a comedian's only had to mention my name and they got a laugh. They didn't have to add anything to it.